The morning light crept slowly over Crestwood Lake, turning the surface into a mirror of molten gold. Birds circled lazily above the pine ridge, and a low hum of cameras filled the silence where once only the sound of wind lived. The mansion, with its stone walls and wide wooden gates, stood like a fortress under siege, not by soldiers, but by attention. The crowd had tripled overnight. Neighbors, reporters, and live streamers swarmed the area, each one eager to capture the drama that had gripped the town. What had begun as a property dispute was now a movement. Cars lined the narrow country road, headlights cutting through the morning mist. A group of college students stood by the hillside holding a handmade banner, "Let the man live free." News vans parked haphazardly along the slope, their satellite dishes pointed skyward. Drones buzzed overhead like metallic insects. Across social media, the hashtags #NarsStandWithDaniel and HOA Control trended worldwide. Inside the mansion, Daniel Cole paced back and forth, his mind a storm. He hadn't slept. Empty coffee mugs and crumpled papers littered the floor. His reflection in the window was ghostly, the face of a man who had lost sleep, hope, and nearly everything else. The document that had arrived the previous morning still lay on the table, stamped and official. The words Public Property Reclamation Act seemed to mock him. He picked it up again, reading it for the 100th time, his voice a broken whisper. "Daniel, public land. They call it that. But I built this with my hands. My father, my mother, they're buried here. Tell me, what part of that is public?" He pressed the paper flat against the table, his fingers trembling. Flashbacks danced before his eyes, his father hammering beams into the foundation, the sound of laughter echoing through half-built rooms, his mother planting the first tree by the lakeside. That tree still stood outside, tall and silent, as if watching the chaos unfold. Outside, the sound of engines returned. 3 HOA SUVs, white and spotless, rolled up the dirt road like a convoy of law and order. Behind them, a flatbed truck carried surveying tools and construction stakes. A new layer of tension rippled through the onlookers. The officers stepped out, their boots crunching against gravel. Officer Marin, the woman who had confronted Daniel days ago, led the group. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried a shadow of conflict. She wasn't proud of what she was about to do. Marin, quietly to her partner. "They're pushing too hard. The man's not a criminal, partner. Orders are orders. We just mark the line and leave." Daniel stepped out of the house as the cameras turned toward him. The sunlight hit his face and the whole world seemed to hold its breath. "Daniel, you're not touching my land." Marin, "Mr. Cole, please. I don't want this to turn violent." Daniel, "Violent? You came here with lines and flags dividing my home like it's a battlefield." The officers began planting red survey flags along the dirt boundary, one by one. Each flag flapped sharply in the breeze, like a series of wounds opening across the land. People started filming on their phones. Murmurs turned to shouts. "Neighbor, he's right. They can't just take it." Another voice. "This is wrong. It's theft in daylight." Marin hesitated. For a second, her hand trembled as she pressed a flag into the ground. Her eyes met Daniel's, and in them guilt flashed like lightning. By noon, chaos had erupted. News vans blocked the entire road. A local journalist, Anna Pierce, moved through the crowd with her microphone. "Anna, Daniel Cole, do you believe the HOA is abusing power?" Daniel firmly. "They call this management. I call it control. They want silence, but silence is how you lose everything." He gestured toward the crowd, people from all backgrounds standing behind him. "Daniel, they can mark my ground with flags, but they can't mark my spirit." "Not today," the crowd roared. Applause, cheers. Even some of the officers looked uneasy now. The HOA had wanted compliance, but instead, they had sparked rebellion. As drones hovered overhead, broadcasting live feeds across the internet, HOA executives watched from a glass conference room miles away. HOA director. "He's turning into a symbol. That can't happen." Legal advisor. "Public sympathies out of control. Should we pull back?" Director. "No, we go forward, tonight." They signed a new order, Reclamation Directive 204A. It authorized full control of Crestwood, by any means deemed necessary. As evening fell, the mansion was quiet again. But it wasn't peace. It was the calm before something darker. Daniel sat alone on his porch, watching the reflection of the sunset on the lake. The world outside buzzed with noise, but inside his heart a strange stillness took hold. He took out an old photo, his family smiling in front of the half-built house. His father's arm around his shoulder, his mother holding blueprints. For a moment his anger melted into sorrow.
Daniel whispering, "You told me this house would stand for generations, Dad. Maybe you were wrong."
Or maybe it's time to make sure you weren't. A distant hum caught his ear, faint but familiar. He stood scanning the tree line. Red lights flickered between the branches, drones, dozens of them. Within minutes, a low rumble followed, trucks, heavy machinery, spotlights cutting through the night. The HOA had returned, not with paperwork this time, but with an operation. Daniel rushed inside, his pulse racing. He grabbed his phone, recording the scene. Daniel to camera. "They're here again. They think they can scare me in the dark. Well, not tonight." The lights outside intensified. Officers stepped out wearing night vision gear. Marin was among them, her face pale under the glow. Daniel yelling, "You're trespassing!" Marin pleading, "Daniel, don't do this! They've got orders." Daniel, "Then break them." Suddenly, a loudspeaker blared. Voice. "Crestwood property is now under reclamation by the HOA. Vacate immediately." The crowd, drawn by the noise, began returning. Dozens of cars, phone lights, and angry voices filling the night. The police tried to hold them back. A standoff began, cameras rolling, drones recording from above. In that chaos, Marin stepped forward, whispering to Daniel under the noise. "Marin, you're not fighting me, Daniel. You're fighting something much bigger. They've buried evidence, the maps, the ownership deeds. They rewrote history." Daniel, stunned. "What are you talking about?" Marin, "Crestwood was never public. It was reclassified after your father died. Someone wanted this land, badly." Daniel's heart pounded. "Who?" he demanded. But before she could answer, a new voice cut through the commotion, deep, commanding, coming from behind the floodlights. Voice. Enough. A tall man stepped out of one of the trucks, dressed in a dark HOA coat, face half in shadow. Marin, whispering, "That's the director." The man raised his hand, signaling silence. Director. "Mr. Cole, you've made your point, but you're trespassing on restricted property. You have 5 minutes to leave or we'll enforce removal." Daniel. "Restricted property? This is my father's house." Director. "It was until the HOA acquired Crestwood Holdings. Check your town registry." Daniel's breath caught. The crowd erupted again. Daniel. "You bought my land?" Director, smirking. "Correction. We bought the debt your father left behind." Gasps spread through the people watching. The truth hit Daniel like a physical blow. His father's unpaid taxes, buried for years, had been used as a weapon, but Daniel didn't back down. Slowly, he stepped closer, his voice low but steady. "Daniel, you can take the land. But you'll never take the story. People are watching. You've already lost." For a moment, the director hesitated. The noise of the crowd grew louder. Then, silence. The director turned away, signaling his men. "Shut it down," he said. The truck stopped. The drones hovered, then retreated into the darkness. Daniel stood in the driveway, chest heaving, eyes burning under the moonlight. Daniel to himself. "They think this ends tonight. They're wrong. This is just beginning." As dawn broke, the headlines spread across the nation. One man versus the HOA. Daniel Cole had become a symbol of defiance, of freedom, and of the line between control and chaos. And somewhere deep inside the HOA's headquarters, a new plan was already being drawn, one that would take the fight far beyond Crestwood.